see a full house tonight. I'm Nick Fisicelli. I'm the interim president and CEO of Schoodic Institute at Acadia National Park. So welcome to our campus, welcome to the park. Glad you guys could make it out on a beautiful evening. And Schoodic Institute, our focus is really on environmental change in the future. And so it's understanding environmental change and its consequences, and then developing conservation and stewardship solutions and engaging people in the work. And just a quick example of that, of engaging people in the research and developing solutions. We've had a couple of citizen science observations here this summer and fall by both middle school students who are part of the Schoodic Education Adventure Program, and then also by our own technicians who are just graduated from college, environmental scientists who are just starting their careers, and both made the first observations of the Asian shore crab on the peninsula here, on the Schoodic Peninsula. So those were the first observations of that species here locally, which is bad news in that it's an invasive species that's been spreading along the coast, but it is an example of how citizen scientists can really play an important role in helping scientists and helping us to understand the changes that are happening to Acadia National Park and to the Gulf of Maine and beyond. And in the way we're pursuing solutions to these changes, one example, Hannah Weber, who's our marine ecology director, is working with a diverse group of partners on identifying what a healthy intertidal zone is and trying to manage towards that. But just a quick example of some of our science and education work. A month ago we had the Lobster War movie, and I mentioned that upcoming was going to be this cloud appreciation event, and I asked how many people in the audience were familiar with the Cloud Appreciation Society, and I think a couple of people, maybe just 2 or 3 people in the audience raised their hands, and so I think it's awesome that so many people are here tonight. And so I think you may have a lot of people who aren't as familiar with the Cloud Appreciation Society, but I think one person who's very familiar with it is over there. So I'm going to just quickly introduce our guest speaker. He can give you a little bit more background on himself. So Gavin Pretor-Pinney, who's the founder of the Cloud Appreciation Society, is our speaker tonight. Gavin met this morning with local school children, and so that work plus the lecture tonight are made possible by grants from the Holt Family Fund and the Way Fund, which are both component funds of the Maine Community Foundation. And we also thank Sherry Streeter and the Schoodic Institute Arts Advisory Council for bringing this programming to Schoodic. So with that, I'll turn it over to Gavin. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to do the lights, right, so that we can get it a little bit more comfy in here. That means we can see the screen better. So I'm going to talk to you about some of my favorite flowers. I think it's very important that when you leave a talk, you've got some knowledge, some useful knowledge. So you're going to be leaving this talk as expert cloud spotters, every one of you. So I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to talk a little bit about the Cloud Appreciation Society, because many of you may not know what on earth that is. Are there any members here? How many people here are members? See that. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. I've got a couple of films to show you, some little experiments I did, stuff like that. It's going to be fun. And I want to start by just saying, I find it interesting that we as people don't notice the sky all that much. I mean, maybe here in Maine, I know you get amazing skies. In fact, I saw some beautiful cirrus sky earlier this afternoon. But in many parts of the world, people don't notice the sky. It's easy to forget that we live in an ocean of air, this ocean of gases. So it's different from the oceans of water, but it is actually in so many ways just like the ocean of water, like the Atlantic outside here. And this ocean of air in which we inhabit, you see it has waves in it, and the clouds sometimes reveal these waves. In fact, the clouds reveal all the movements of the air when they appear. So I think it's interesting how we don't necessarily notice clouds that much, given that we live in the ocean, we live on the bed of that ocean, but we inhabit the sky, we don't live beneath it. And I find it interesting that perhaps the fact that the sky is always there means that we become a bit blind to it. Kids notice the clouds, they become fascinated. When I had the school kids this morning, there were lots of questions. What's a cloud made of? How much does it weigh? You know, there was a couple of people thought it was made of cotton wool. What do you call it? Cotton. Yeah, cotton candy. So you know, there are lots of questions for kids because kids are engaged in the sky and kids are engaged in clouds. But as we become adults, it's like always there, and so we sort of become a bit blind to it. It's hiding in plain sight. And yet, when you stop to think about it, the sky is the most dynamic, evocative, and poetic aspect of nature. One that we all have an amazing view of. So it's kind of like this very egalitarian part of nature as well. And I think, you know, we should maybe appreciate it a little bit more. I think it's fascinating when you start to engage in the sky and you start to see what the clouds reveal and the amazing range of formations that are out there. I think it's good for you. I think it's good for your creativity to get your mind, your head in the clouds for a few moments. Because it's a different mode of thinking. It's like a mode when you're daydreaming. Okay, you're not concentrating on something. And we used to have times when we were daydreaming in our day a little bit more often. These days with devices. You're waiting for a bus or whatever you do. I know you guys never wait for buses in the US, but we wait for buses a lot. And you've got now you've got your phone and you're doing it. So you don't have that daydreaming time which I used to have as a kid in London when we waited for a bus. So you have to kind of introduce them. And cloud spotting legitimizes doing nothing, basically. So from my point of view, it's valuable in that sense. It's also valuable, I think, for your well-being, because it's like slowing down. It's like a kind of moment of meditation, but meditating on something that's outside of your control, which is an important element. So that's why I started the Cloud Appreciation Society, because I wanted it to be like a tap on the shoulder, the stuff that people know when they're young, and the connection that people form with the sky maybe when they're young, which runs deep, and it's an emotional connection. I wanted them to have that brought back into their consciousness as an adult. So that makes it sound really kind of thought out, all right? That's a post-rationalization. Actually, when I started it happened much more randomly than that. A friend of mine was starting a festival down in Cornwall in the southwest of England, a literary festival, and she knew that I liked to bang on about clouds, always going on about clouds. I had not written a book or anything, and I certainly hadn't started any society, but she said to me, Gavin, why don't you come and do a talk about clouds at my literary festival that I'm starting? I was like, okay, fine, why not? What could go wrong? Now, I thought, what's could go wrong? Because when, you know, it's an outdoor festival, it could be pouring with rain, it always happens in the UK. So I thought, how do I get people to come along to the talk? Well, I'll give it an unusual and weird name, because then people will come because they're intrigued. So I called it the Inaugural Lecture of the Cloud Appreciation Society. I mean, come on, you're going to want to know what that's about. And it was full. Problem was, everyone came up to me afterwards and said, wait, how do I join? I was, anyway, that's really how it started. I thought, well, actually, now you think about it, it was a kind of whimsical idea, but now you think about it, yes, we do need to be reminded of this fact. We do need to be reminded of the beauty of cloud sky. So then I came back to that same festival a couple of years later, after I had written a book, all right, and the first book, 28 publishers turned it down. They said, you don't want to hear about clouds, they're boring, or they're a bit of a downer, and so it was hard to get that published, but I came back when the book was published as a speaker with a published book. And this time, I dressed up as a clown. It's a good effect, isn't it? My wife helped me with that. Lots of coat hangers inside. These are the real legs here. So there I was up on stage. Basically, walk around like that, the legs hanging out the front. Good for a few minutes, kind of get a few laughs at the beginning, and then you're going to do the rest of the whole talk. But I did enjoy it, and I actually spent most of the rest of the day sort of basically wearing it because it freaked the kids out. They really didn't understand what was going on. Slightly strange. Yeah, so listen, one thing that's really important to do, I think, is have some bits of science interwoven with the kind of softer stuff. And I thought, let's get us all onto the same baseline here. We're going to make sure that we all have a kind of general basic idea of how clouds work. So I did this little animation, which is called Welcome to the World of Clouds. And I thought I would do it, the voiceover, in the style of one of those kind of public information films, you know, from the 50s or 60s, an English version, but you have the same sort of thing here, right? You know what I'm talking about. So that's my style of voiceover, just so you know. Here it is. This is how clouds work, right? Welcome to the world of clouds. Before you start collecting them, let's explain what clouds are and how they get up in the sky. It all begins down on Earth. As water evaporates from oceans, rivers and lakes, its molecules, which are far too small to see, lift up on the surface. When the air cools enough, they start to stick together into droplets or ice crystals. Millions of these, suspended in the air, appear as a cloud. The low clouds like Cumulus are made of droplets. The high ones, like cirrus, are made of ice crystals. No two clouds are ever alike, but they share characteristics. Sometimes they're translucent streaks, sometimes clumps or stacks, and sometimes layers. As the particles of a cloud scatter the sunlight, they can cause a whole range of different optical phenomena to appear. When a cloud grows tall, its base appears dark, and the droplets in its upper reaches can start to freeze. Soon they grow large enough to form. If the air below is warm enough, they melt as they descend, black as raindrops, and the whole cycle begins again. Happy cloud spotting! Right, happy cloud spotting. Now you know. Now we know the basics. Let's start meeting some of the characters of the sky. And some of these will be familiar, but probably none as familiar as this one. The Cumulus cloud. It's the Simpsons cloud. It forms on a sunny day, and it forms as a result of the sun. Well, actually, at first I should have said, before I say how it forms, I think this is like the generic cloud. Think of a cloud, and it's a cumulus that probably comes to mind. So I like that way, which is the kind of, it's the basic one. I like the way it's got this crisp, beautiful crisp edges to it. Great for finding shapes in. It forms on thermals. So thermals are these columns, invisible columns of air rising off the ground. Because the way it works is the sun heats the ground. It doesn't heat the air, the sunlight. It passes through that, it heats the ground. And then the ground heats the air. So what you find is some bits of the ground heat the air better or more efficiently than others. So a parking lot over there will heat it more efficiently than some woods over there. And so the air here rises up in a column. So that column, that rising column, is what gives birth to the cumulus cloud. And you can see it in time lapse. So you can't see the air rising up, but you can see there's a moment at which the air has expanded enough, and as it expands, it cools for some of the droplets to appear. So water is changed into droplets, and the droplets we can see. So they form on thermals, and a cumulus, so that word cumulus, we've got these Latin names for clouds, and I hope that's not going to freak you out. No one's walked out yet. But I know that they are a bit sort of off-putting at first. Cumulus means a heap or a stack in Latin, because they're like the blobby ones, the solid ones. And cumulus is one of the 10 main cloud types. There are 10 main types, but you can sometimes add another term like fluctus, and that's when the cumulus cloud has maybe reached the ripe old age of 15 minutes and is dissipating away into the blue. That process, so it's fractured, it's got frayed edges, and that whole process of clouds appearing and disappearing, that's the magic. That's the magic of clouds and the magic of the sky. And it's to do with this one simple thing. Water is a very special substance on our planet because it is unique. It's the only one found within the natural conditions of our atmosphere in the 3 states, solid, liquid and gas. Right? The only thing on our planet found naturally within those 3 states. And it can change super easily from one to the other. And one of them is invisible, gas. So in the air here, there's water, vapour, and it's a gas. Like the air you breathe out has got water vapour in it. And we can't see it, but it can so easily change with just like slight temperature change into droplets, which we can see as a low cloud, or ice crystals we see as a high cloud. So that's cumulus, that's number 1, all right? We started with the basics. Now we're going up a little to altocumulus. Altocumulus, so these are made of smaller clumps. And look how regular they are. But those clumps may look smaller, but they're actually not. They're just further away. If you were to go up into a plane, like for instance when Georgia O'Keeffe did a series of paintings of clouds from the windows of planes, she was more up on their level. And up there, about the same size as the cumulus clouds we're so familiar with down here. But from further away, they look pretty small. Higher up, they look even smaller, a different type of it. The other thing that's interesting about them is they're so regular, it's such a regular pattern. And I wanted to demonstrate why they formed in a regular pattern like this when I did a live Skype interview with the Weather Channel, right? So here in the US, I used to do it once a month. We used to have our cloud of the month, and we'd check in, and they'd ask me, tell us about the cloud of the month this month, and I would do it, and we'd talk about it. And I got a bit bored of just talking about it. I thought, what I want to do is now do a live, really kind of add some jeopardy into the situation, do a live demonstration using stuff in the kitchen over a Skype call with them, and it could all go wrong. So that's what I did when I was trying to demonstrate why these clouds look like the way they do. And I used a panini toaster. Right, here we go.
He's on in the south.
Santiago. Beautiful weather there always. Well, time now to show off the cloud of the month, or in this case, maybe we should say cloudlets.
In fact, these cloudlets look like sheets of fleecy clumps here. They make up the altocumulus cloud.
There you go. And for more on the cloud of the month, we want to bring in Gavin Pretor-Pinney, founder of the Cloud Appreciation Society. Gavin, good to see you, joining us from Somerset, England.
That's right. Hi, Penny. Hi, Paul.
Well, tell us about the altocumulus cloud. Of course, they look like they were almost deliberately laid out in a cool pattern. Explain that.
Yeah, well, that's what's so striking about these are beautiful clouds, all right? It's what's so striking about them is they have this layer. When they appear like this, it's a very regular layer spreading over a large area. Lots of clumps called cloudlets with gaps in between.
Here you have a demonstration for us.
I sure do. I'm going to show you. It's a kitchen demo. You know I like my kitchen demos in the kitchen. So it involves a one of these panini kind of toasters, you know these, right? And basically, you this is going to represent what happens to the air. All right, I've got some oil here. This is sunflower oil, and I've mixed into it some powder, mica powder, M-I-C-A. You can get it online. It's just a sort of sparkly powder that people use for crafts and stuff like that. And it helps us show the movement of the oil. And that's important because the way the oil moves is going to be the way the air moves up in the sky. Now I'm going to turn this sandwich toaster on. And it's going to start to gently heat the oil below. And you will see the way that the oil rises is going to be in little cells. They're called convection cells as it begins to warm up. These cells are where the oil rises up and the cooler oil above sinks down. Can you see them beginning to appear
Yes,
there?
yes.
So these are the same. You see the way it matches the cloud formation with the lots of the little clumps of cloud. It's the same thing is happening up in the sky. You get warmer air below the cloud layer, cooler air above the cloud layer. The air that wants to rise up, it rises up in pockets with the cooler air coming down in between. And so, you know, this oil, what's happening with the oil here in the sandwich toaster, it mirrors what's happening up in the sky.
Gavin, that was so cool for a while that we had the side-by-side of your experiment along with the actual of the Cumulus cloud. It looks
It's weird, but they're the same, don't they?
It's
very
fantastic.
cool.
Great job, great demonstration. That's Gavin Pretor-Pinney from the Cloud Appreciation Society. And it's all because our atmosphere is like that panini toaster. It's heated from below. So it causes these convection cells. And it's a beautiful demonstration of what goes on. It's amazing,
It
John.
really is amazing up there. All right, we appreciate that. Coming up here on the
So, so that could have gone wrong. I believe that it did. Someone sent in a picture to us at the Cloud Appreciation Society, said, I saw some cumulus clouds in my cup of tea. And this is exactly the same thing going on. The tea cools at the top and it's warmer below. You can't have all the warmer liquid below going up in one go. It needs to arrange itself in bits that go up and bits that come down. So it's just rearranged itself into these convection cells. It made me think that, maybe think of, you know that Carly Simon song, You're So Vain? Clouds in my coffee, tea, coffee. You know, it's the American version. It's clearly a big fan of convection cells. Right, now listen, we're moving on, and we're moving up to cirrus. Alright, cirrus. So the name of these clouds, well, firstly, let's say these clouds are composed of ice crystals. So the low clouds with droplets. These are ice crystals. They're tumbling from the upper reaches of the troposphere, the part of our atmosphere where weather happens, up where airplanes cruise. And as these ice crystals fall, they pass through differing winds, and they can be blown this way or that way. They can thicken or they can become finer. Here are some from rather close by. It's just this afternoon outside. So they can have this beautiful hooked appearance to them, or almost look like marble beef or something like that. I know it doesn't feel quite right, it's like it's ethereal as cirrus clouds. The name means a lock of hair. The Latin for a lock of hair is what a cirrus means, a lock or a curl. Now what Edward Hopper quite liked to paint cirrus clouds. He was a fan actually of high clouds. And these ones you see kind of like go off into the distance and then like a sort of road up into those would probably be jet stream cirrus that he painted there. I'm sure he wasn't kind of intending them to be, but you know, me looking at it as a cloud spotter, when I look at paintings, I like to look at what was not intended to be the subject of the painting often in the past, and look at what's happening in the periphery. And I think he got jet stream cirrus there, because these cirrus clouds can sometimes follow the path of the jet stream, they're created in the jet stream. So, yeah, and they have this sometimes this hooked appearance, like the ones we had over Maine this afternoon, or around lunchtime. This hooked appearance, it'd be called cirrus uncinus, which is hooked in Latin. And it's a little bit surprising the direction the wind is going, because we were just discussing this today with Randall and Shelley when I was going out for a walk. The wind you might at first glance think it's going that way, it's kind of like catching the thing, but actually the wind is going this way. In fact, we've got a time lapse. Here, the wind is going this way, and the thing is, higher up you are, the faster the wind is generally, and you come down, generally speaking, it's slower. So the ice crystals fall like this in the fast part, and as they fall further, they trail behind because they go into the slower wind. You see what I mean? So you get this, everything's moving that way, and you get the trails going this way. Cirrus, the name, as I've said, means a lock of hair. And in fact, all these Latin names, which are a bit off-putting, they're just what the cloud looks like. Not all of them, but almost all of them, about just saying what the cloud looks like. So, you know, we just say it in Latin to make it sound more grown up and more kind of official. But finding shapes in the clouds, which is effectively what cloud classification is based on, is one of the best bits of cloud spotting. I love it when people send in photographs of clouds that look like things. Kind of like a skydiver over Hong Kong. Or another skydiver over Norway. That's a Cirrus cloud formation. How about breakdancer over Romania? Busting a groove over Zalău, Romania. Or how about one of those ribbon-twirling gymnasts over Belgium? I love them. Do you know what I mean? They're like an idea. They're like someone's idea captured in a moment. Of course, the cloud is passing, but they just happen to have their attention on the sky, and they happen to have their smartphone in their hand or a camera in their hand, and they just go boom. And you've got what they were thinking at that moment. Captured. How about Queen Nefertiti? Reigned over Egypt for 20 years, about 3,500, 600 years ago. There is a joke there, isn't there? Reigned over Paul Maxwell for 5 minutes. But I'm not going to say that joke because that would be a bad pun. And anyway, I didn't think it was a rain cloud. But how about this? Some broccoli out jogging. They're quite random, aren't they? I quite like the sort of random ones, but we often see a lot of animals, all right? We see a lot of animals in the sky, like a hawk, looking for easy pickings on the ski slopes. And perhaps a reindeer. They sent it in with a kind of pun. Who was that Mary sent it in with the pun? And of course, like a cat, pussy cat, looking ready to pour the cards below. You know, and then we see some things like an elephant over Yosemite, or an elephant over Thailand, an elephant on its hind legs over North Carolina, an elephant squirting water, a pink elephant. I don't know, I see so many elephants. But the weird thing is, I looked into it. I did it, I won't say it was an official statistical analysis, but I started looking at what were the animals that people saw most often, and it's an elephant that people see in terms of the ones that get sent into the society. It's always this an elephant that's the most popular. And I was thinking about this, I was wondering, why is that? And it occurred to me that there are some early Hindu beliefs about the creation of the universe, and that there are these kind of uber elephants involved in the creation of the universe. And these sort of magical, powered elephants have the ability to fly, and they will wait, and they could change shape, and then they have the power to bring rain. Clouds, basically. And they, I was wondering whether the fact that we see elephants quite a lot in the sky, maybe that's related to why they got sort of intertwined into this early creation myth in India. And it could be because of the way cumulus clouds build up, and then when they decay, the bit that was kind of the centre of that thermal gets left behind a little bit, and so you have a kind of trunk sticking out. Maybe it's just something to do with the way clouds live and die. So this one here is, of course, looks like what? UFO. It's actually known as a lenticularis cloud, after the Latin for a lentil. simply because nobody knew what the Latin for a UFO was. We could of course put a far better name. Sometimes you get them stacked up one above the other, sort of hamburger version of them. Sometimes they're spread out over the sky in kind of elongated fashion. I lived in Rome for about 8 months, and while I was there I went to Arezzo in Italy, and I was amazed when I looked at the frescoes by Piero della Francesca in the 15th century, and I was like, wait a minute, he's got lenticularis clouds in the sky. What's going on there? No one else was painting specific cloud types around that time, early Renaissance. There'd be blue skies, or there'd be really kind of cartoon cumulus clouds a bit later on. And suddenly Piero della Francesca's painting lenticularis, this early cloud spotter painter master. I was like, what's that about? And I thought about it, and then I thought, how do these clouds form? They form near mountains. And there's a reason for that. That's because the mountain is like an obstacle to the wind. And as the wind flows along, it hits the mountain, and it has to rise to pass over it. And when the weather's stable, it's not stormy weather, this wind downward to the peak can take these wave-like paths. It's known as a standing wave. And so the wind flows like this, and as it rises, the air expands, and whenever any gas expands, it cools. So the air cools, and it can cool enough, if the conditions are right, for a droplet to form. And that droplet shoots through the cloud with the wind, and then the wind starts to dip again, and contract and warm, and then the droplet evaporates. So the droplets are appearing and evaporating, but the cloud stays fixed, because it's a standing wave. So this is how they form. Near mountains, and Piero della Francesca grew up at the base of the Apennine Mountains where he was born. So I thought, maybe, I'm no art historian, don't ask me, just a little cloud spotter. But I thought it might be the case. What do you think? It's possible. So these can look beautiful when the sun is low and it's got glancing angles on them. They're like contours of the atmosphere. Right. We're now going into some rarer ones, okay? How about this? The carbon cloud. It's also known as the fall streak hole. And this cloud around there. Does anyone remember, it was one of the ones I mentioned before? The cloud that is got a hole in. Cumulus, exactly, cumulus. And there's a hole cut in cumulus like a cookie cutter. It's got a hole in it. And below that hole is this sort of feathery thing. So this is when one part of a cloud in the mid-level cumulus, it's got droplets, but they're super cool. They're so cold. They might be minus 15 degrees Celsius, which, you don't know what is that in Fahrenheit? Minus 22, I mean, what is it? Anyway, minus 15. It's cold. And yet they haven't frozen. They're still droplets. They're known as super cool. And that happens a lot up in clouds. Droplets stay liquid when they're very cold. But once something is there to get the freezing started, like something for them to freeze onto, then it all kicks off. And that's what happened here. You might have this layer of cumulus clouds, super cool droplets, and it might be a plane flying up through the cloud layer. And that is enough to give it a bit more cooling, because it would be the vortices around the rings where the air cools a bit, or something like that, and it sets off the freezing, and then it starts to spread outwards. The freezing happens, the ice crystals grow, they splinter, and they act as seeds for making the water droplets nearby, and it spreads out, and the freezing kind of spreads out the chain reaction. And I've got another kitchen demo. Alright, here we go with the weather channel. Another kitchen demo to demonstrate this idea of water freezing suddenly.
You need to start with a bucket and a bunch of ice and some salt and some bottles of really pure water. So you might want mineral water or distilled water. You pour the salt into the bucket, you put the water bottles in there, and you find that salt will take the temperature down. You can put a thermometer in the bucket as well. That will take the temperature down, well below freezing.
The salt will. Maybe, when I did this before, it was -8 Celsius, which is what, 18 Fahrenheit, something like that. 20 minutes later, you'll find the water will have cooled down to that temperature, and if it was really pure, it would have stayed liquid, in a super cool liquid state. Now, what we do is you take a tiny shaving of ice from your freezer and you just drop it in, and you'll see the ice should freeze in one go. Hopefully, if it's worked, if it's pure enough, freeze in one go. It's an amazing sight. And you've created in your kitchen now, all right, the exact same chain reaction of freezing that gives rise to this full streak whole cloud, all right? Up in the cloud, it starts freezing in one place, perhaps as some ice crystals fall from a cloud above, and this sets off a kind of chain reaction of spreading. And so next time you see a cloud like the May cloud of the month, the full streak whole, you'll know how it forms.
That is fantastic. Gavin Pretor-Pinney, the founder of the Cloud Appreciation Society, thanks so much for joining us this Sunday morning and showing us a great kind of demo we can do about
The wow of weather.
So listen, that is a demonstration of water in this constant change, right? So I said water's unique on this planet, but other planets, it's not water. They've got something else that fulfills that role of being able to change and form clouds. Venus, sulfuric acid, alright? So Venus is a very carbon dioxide atmosphere, and the cloud is sheathed and completely covered in clouds. They're clouds made of sulfuric acid, and so when it rains, if you complain about the rain, just think how it could be. It could be raining sulfuric acid. Mars has clouds made of ice crystals of sometimes of water and sometimes of ammonia. And this is one trailing from a mountain. Well, it's a sort of volcano. It's not the actual volcano or anything like that. It's a cloud trailing from the volcano, caused by this whole thing of like air lifting to pass over it. We here would call that a banner cloud, and you can see it on satellites from very powerful satellites. I don't know what the Martians would call it. They put in their own name for it. That's what we'd call it, banner clouds. But it's like a banner that hangs from the end of the mountain peak. Saturn has a cloud formation at the top that looks like a hexagon. Saturn's clouds are made of ammonia and water mixture. I'm not quite sure what happens at what depths. But up around the North Pole, the jet stream sets up this kind of sort of resonance thing, and it's in the shape of a hexagon, which seems kind of amazing. You see it in time lapse. These are like huge storms. The Earth is probably a little bit less than one side of the size of that, one side of that hexagon, the kind of width of Earth. And you've got those huge storms happening within it. And relative to the planet itself, the hexagon stays pretty much fixed in place. And then Jupiter has like huge, that's a red spot, the famous red spot on Jupiter, and it's got these beautiful curling formations of clouds in all the kind of shearing of winds around that red spot storm. So what are they? I can't remember what they are on Jupiter, but in each case there's something different that serves the role as water. Okay, now we're going to move on to this one. This is the king or queen of clouds. It's the cumulonimbus. Stretches maybe 10, 12 miles up into the atmosphere. And it spreads outwards at the top in this enormous anvil shape. It's the storm cloud. It sort of produces thunder and lightning and hail. And it's like an expression of the architecture of our atmosphere. You see as it builds upwards, how it spreads out. It reaches a part of the atmosphere where clouds can't grow any higher. Ooh, is that my voice going? Clouds can't grow any higher. They spread outwards like under an invisible ceiling, the top of the troposphere. So they just spread out. And that's why you get this kind of mushroom effect. You can see it from above, looking down. It's from taken from the International Space Station. And it is a particularly strong cloud. It'll kind of push out at the top and that kind of punching through, overshooting top, which shows that it's just pushed up, even though the clouds generally are spreading out. It's so powerful. that Tim Peake, who filmed this one, photographed us from the space station, would have known that down below a fierce storm was raging because of that overshooting peak. Sometimes at the back of the cloud you can get these pouches known as mud. So, you know, they're dramatic patches to the rear of the storm cloud as it advances. And cumulus can also produce this strange optical effect. It looks like a lightsaber. Here's somebody who was filming it on YouTube. He was freaking out. Look how it kind of moves.
Okay, makes sense. Check this out.
You notice how sound keeps cutting out. That's when he was cursing and I had to cut it out. Look at that. I mean, imagine the comments on YouTube for this. It was like, it's UFO, it's the government doing experiments on us. But actually, it's natural. It's known as a crown flash, and it's where the ice crystals up above the storm cloud align themselves with the huge kind of electrical field within its storm cloud. And every time a lightning bolt strikes, they change alignment. But we just don't see the lightning striking because it's daytime. And we don't hear it because he's in the shadow. You can get sometimes be in a kind of sound shadow for a certain distance from the storm. So you just see them suddenly change, and then they reflect the sunlight and suddenly reflected in a different way. It looks like this weird kind of lightsaber beam known as a crown flash. Right, so I'm going to finally say what I want to talk about this cloud, right? So someone sent this in to us a few years ago. And I was like, oh, that's a wavy cloud. But it's like a bit different from normal wavy clouds. I was going, oh, it's kind of, this one's Cedar Rapids in Iowa. And there is a name for wavy cloud, it's called undulatus. Okay, but this one seems a bit different. A bit more, I don't know, like turned up. And then a bit later on, someone else sent one in. I was like, wait a sec, there's another of those ones. We put them up on the gallery when someone sent in a photograph, and we say what type of cloud it was, or is. I was like, what type of cloud is this one? Not too sure. And I just thought, oh, you know, just one of those weird ones. And then another one came in, this one from Australia. Every sort of 6 months, maybe once a year, and I go, there's another of those weird ones. It looks like you're underneath the surface of the water on a turbulent, rough day, looking up, like snorkeling. And then you're looking at the underside, and I was going, wow, there's another of those kind of out snorkeling on a turbulent day clouds. And then sometimes you'd see them come in, and they'd have these sort of peaks, like up there. You see these kind of like a meringue peak up there, or down here slightly. These kind of peaks. And I go, there was another thing, you know, sometimes you'd notice those. That was another sort of thing. I thought, this is a really recognisable cloud. I don't know what to call it. It doesn't seem to quite fit within the existing Latin cloud names. Maybe we need a new name. You know, maybe, what if the names we've got for the classifier of this kind of type of cloud, maybe they don't quite, it doesn't quite fit with them. How do you go about proposing a new type of cloud? I know you've all asked yourself that question, one time or another. Well, I thought, well, first what I'll do is I'll go along to the Royal Geographical Society, the Royal Meteorological Society in the UK, because you know, they sound like they know what they're talking about. And I'll ask them, and I called them up and said, you know, I think I might have a new type of cloud. And they're like, what? And they said, okay, come on then, let's see your cloud. Bring it in, let's have a look at your new type of cloud. So I came into their offices with some printouts, but before I got there, I thought, I can't turn up and just say, it's a sort of wavy one, looks a bit like you're underneath the sea. I've got to have a Latin name, right? So I called up my cousin, Philip, who's a Latin teacher at high school. I said, Phil, I need some Latin. He said, you've come to the right place. I said, I need some Latin to describe this cloud. It looks like it's a turbulent sea, like an ocean on a stormy day. And he said, Glacialis, Aquilonus, Asperatandas. When I told him I didn't think I was ever going to catch on as a name, he said, don't worry, it's a quote, right? The waves were roughened by the icy winter's northern gales. It's a quote by Virgil. Virgil, a Roman poet. He is a good person to get your Latin names from. Virgil does good Latin. Right? And he is someone who people generally go to find a kind of good use of a Latin word. So he said there's this verb in there, aspero, roughen, to roughen, I think it roughen. He said, do something with that word, and he used it in conjunction with the sea. So I was like, okay, fine. So the term ended up being asperitas. A few like different options before, but it ended up being asperitas, right, which means roughness, the noun. Anyone wants to know about the details of this? I won't bore you now, ask me after. Okay, but it's a noun. And so I went in there to the Royal Meteorological Society and they said, oh, here it is, it's like this. You know, it's called asperitas. And they said, there are like 4 of them behind the table, like kind of an X Factor or something like that. America's Got Talent. And they were like, come on then, let's have a look. And so I showed them the pictures, and then they said, afterwards they said, you know, you might have a point. I mean, it is distinctive, and it doesn't quite fit within the existing term. You could have a point, but I wouldn't hold your breath about it becoming an official cloud type. And I was like, why is that? They said, because the people who decide whether a cloud is official or not are these people. The World Meteorological Organization, UN organization, and they don't do anything in a hurry. They are not going to be particularly desperate to do a new edition of this book. Now, the book is this book called the International Cloud Atlas. That is the official reference work for clouds. If you want your cloud to be official, they said, it's got to be in the International Cloud Atlas. Now, this book, I knew, it was first published in 1896. All right? I knew that was the first time, it was before the WMO were around, obviously, but I knew that that's when this book had the 10 main cloud types, and that storm cloud, the cumulonimbus, was number 9 in the list of the 10 main cloud types, and that's why we get the term to be on cloud 9. If you're the tallest cloud. So I knew the International Cloud Atlas, right? And every few decades after that, a new edition would have been published, and nowadays, it's the WMO who are responsible for publishing this reference work. And they said, you would get in that. And, you know, they don't, it's a big deal to change it. So I wouldn't, but what you could do is find out some of the science of this cloud. Find out how it forms. And that might help your case. So I was like, okay, fine. And I knew that we had this app. We've got an iPhone app, right, with the different cloud types in it, right? Where people go around taking pictures. It's called Cloudspotter, all right? It's quite old now. It's been slightly replaced by a different one. But Cloudspotter has these the different kind of reference images and information about the different cloud types. And you take a picture of the sky, all right? And you have to say what cloud you think it is, and you submit it up like that, and then members of the society log in and tell you whether you got it right or not. Got real people behind it, and then you find out within 24 hours if you got it right or not. So this system is up and running, and if you get them right, you get achievement badges as you get kind of stars, stuff like that, and you have your kind of collection of images that you might have taken yourself, and then there's like a ranking. Basically, turn the idle, aimless pursuit of cloud spotting into a competitive sport. And I thought, you know, I'll just put the asperitas cloud in there, so everyone spots it. See if people notice it and take pictures of it. Because that would actually be quite a good argument for this being a cloud type. If people can identify it, it's recognisable. So I did that, and then I made people want to get it because you've got a special badge if you spotted it correctly, all right, because it motivate them. And what's interesting about a picture to do an app is that, of course, each image, you've got the location and you've got the time. So you could kind of see when there is an example of the asperitas cloud spotted, you could say, hey, this is Northern Europe, that's the corner of England up there, and this is Northern France, and next to it Belgium, and you can see someone there spots it at 3:28, and there's the picture of the cloud they saw, and then someone over there, a little bit later, for half an hour later, in northern Belgium, has spotted the same effect going on, and someone else a little bit later on. And so you have these examples of the cloud spotted by different people, right? So I did something with this university in the UK, and we got some stuff together. Now the funny thing was, I never really tried to persuade the WMO to, to kind of consider this, but journalists, they hassle them a lot, because journalists love this story. I mean, it's got pictures, right? Good pictures. It's got one weird guy with a strange society up against the authorities. It is the ultimate kind of viral story, and we had these waves of media interest in it, where they would kind of go, yeah, it's going to be a new cloud. I was like, oh no, it can't be a new cloud unless the WMO is saying it. They would say, what's the WMO's number? And the caller up says, is it going to be a new cloud? And they go, no, it's not going to be a new cloud. It's a big deal to do a new edition of the International Cloud Atlas, because you've got all these people, all these weather departments around the world all need to get new copies of the book, and they all need to change their naming system. And we've only just published one in 1974. And they said, and he feels that the wave of media interest happened again and again. It happened 3 times. All right, it would sort of go away, and then a year later, some journalist would call up and say, anything happened with that Spiritus cloud? They go, no, absolutely nothing's happened. It's just, we haven't really done anything, but we still get one sent in, and they go, I'd still like to write another story about it. And they'd write another story, and then suddenly there'd be this other wave internationally. So they kept on getting hassled until eventually the WMO said, wait a minute, maybe we should do a new edition of this then. Maybe we should do it on the internet, because that would mean that people, these weather departments in poorer countries would be able to easily access the reference work and blah, blah, blah. Then they, in 2017, in March 2017, they invited me to the WMO in Geneva, their offices. Here is me to give a talk. Here am I standing up. Do I look a little bit nervous, perhaps? And that was when they launched the new edition of the International Cloud Atlas, and it was included in it the Spiritus Cloud, the first new atlas that came as a result of members of the society taking pictures. It's not because that cloud was never there before. It's not like a new cloud that's ready to do climate change or anything like that. It's just that technology and a network of people conscious of the sky and aware of what's happening above them meant that in the centre of that network you could spot a pattern which hadn't been seen before. Simply as that, but that's all it was. So finally, a few really rare clouds to end with. How about the horseshoe vortex cloud? Looks like an upside down horseshoe. Or a kind of moustache. It forms on the top of a thermal. Sometimes when the thermal rises up in their crosswinds, it sets off this sort of horizontal twirl, horizontal vortex, and in the middle a cloud can form because it gets cooler in the middle. And then if you see in time lapse, the thermal continues to push up, and distorts this cloud into this. It's amazing, isn't it? That's a really rare cloud. It's not the rarest. Maybe this one is the rarest. Helmholtz wave cloud. It's also, that's been given a Latin name. It used to be known as the Kelvin-Helmholtz wave cloud, which always struck me as not very snappy. Needed a new brand, a rebrand, basically. And so when they did that International Cloud Atlas, they gave a few of the ones that people have been talking about for ages that didn't have Latin names, they gave them Latin names. So they called that one Fluctus. That's a relatively new name. And it's beautiful. It looks like a series of breaking waves. There's shearing wind. So the wind where the cloud layer is and the wind above, their difference in speeds is quite dramatic. And they can be both going along with this faster wind above it. And that sets off this undulation in where the cloud layer is. And if the difference in those speeds is just right, the tops of those undulations can curl over into these beautiful vortices. And they're there for maybe only a minute or two. Just a minute or two before you can still have the undulations after that, but those curls, the distinctive curls of the fluctus cloud disappear after a minute or two. You often find them over mountains, because the mountains below act as a kind of, they slow down the wind near the mountains, because all the turbulence interacting with the ground, and the wind above isn't slowed down so much. So you get this abrupt difference in speeds as a result of the friction with the mountains. And sometimes you get over the bottom, over the top of fog. So if there's fog sitting in a valley and there's a breeze blowing gently across the top, it can pick up these clouds and pick up these curling waves, and they're momentarily there. Now you may think, seeing a lot of these clouds, that wait a minute, I'm never going to see formations like this. It's not fair. And you're giving me cloud spotter anxiety. You may feel. And I know it's unfair. We've got this, one of the books that we do, we pick the best examples of these cloud formations. We pick the ones that stand out as being really good demonstrations of it. And so it's not really fair, because quite often you'll see clouds that don't dominate the whole sky like that. But it doesn't mean you don't see these rare formations. If you pay attention, you can see them in a small part of the sky. So this rare fluctus cloud, it's rare to dominate the sky. But it's not rare if you're looking at the right place. One place might be just on the top of those common old cumulus that I showed you at the start. The everyday cloud. And if the wind is blowing right across the top of it, you can see the tiny curls of fluctus. Not as dramatic, not as rare, but perhaps more special, because you were the only one who noticed it. So we have a manifesto of the Cloud Appreciation Society, and I always like to end with that. It's 50 pages long. Where is it? Don't have it. Okay, I should be able to remember it by now. We believe that clouds are unjustly maligned, and that life would be immeasurably poorer without them. We think clouds are for dreamers, and their contemplation benefits the soul. Indeed, all who consider the shapes they see in them will save money on psychoanalysis bills. We believe that clouds are expressions of the atmosphere's moods, and can be read like those of a person's countenance. We believe that clouds are the most egalitarian of nature's displays, since everyone has a fantastic view of them. And so we say to all who listen, look up, marvel at the ephemeral beauty, and always remember to light your head in the clouds. Thank you very much. Get these lights up, shall we? Is that going to get the lights up? Two. Here we go. So if anyone's got any questions, I can answer them, so long as they're about clouds. But we don't have to have questions, because we don't want a tumbleweed moment, but we've got someone down the back there. Yes?
Thank you for your wonderful talk. That was great. So you just showed this fluctus cloud, and I swear I saw them looking down in an airplane, a whole row like that. So is it possible when you're in an airplane that you see more different types of formations?
Yeah, so, I mean, you saw them, as you were just saying, you saw those fluctus clouds from up in a plane. Well, it's always good to sit in the window seat of a plane, because it is the best place for cloud spotting, because you are up at their level. And you can see the atmosphere in a three-dimensional way, not just in a kind of two-dimensional way. I mean, I know it's not as simple as that, but being up there at their level, what just can seem like a boring sky from below, but look like an amazing undulating ocean from above, or a landscape, a shifting landscape of valleys and mountains with its own ever-varying topology. And so it's certainly possible that you would have seen fluctus clouds. It was a fluctus you were talking about, yeah? It's certainly possible you would have seen fluctus clouds. In fact, a couple of those photographs were taken from aeroplanes. And yeah, it doesn't have to be down near the ground or near to mountains. You can just get a sudden difference in wind speeds, and if you happen to have some cloud in the middle of it, you can get this thing going on. The same thing would happen in the air, but if the cloud isn't there, you don't see it. So we've got these waves happening the whole time in the atmosphere. The clouds reveal the movements of the air, and so that's why you see them if a cloud happens to be in the right place at the right time. Yeah, so we've got here, yeah.
Thank you. In one of the cumulonimbus photos, I think maybe the one with the clip, it looked like there were 2 or 3 tall shadows on the top, but it seems as if the sun
tall
was
shadows cast up onto the cloud. Yes, people notice this generally. Why didn't I notice this? Okay, so tell me again, you've got the cloud spreading out like that. Do you want to have a look at it?
I think it was the one from the space station.
Oh, from the space station?
I don't know.
Okay, let's just very quickly have a little look back at it, shall we? Cumulonimbus. Where are you? Here we go. So, here's the space station one. Is it that? Those shadows cast back. So this is, if this is what you mean, we've got the sunlight coming from this side. And it's casting down. You're seeing from above that shadow cast onto other layers of cloud down below and down to the ground below. So if you were in that region there, you might see an interesting light effect. You might see part of this layer of cloud. Part of this layer of cloud up here is lit and part of it's not lit, and you go, what's that going on? And sometimes when there are tall clouds right off or over the horizon where the sun is setting or rising, usually setting for sort of these stormy clouds, sun setting over the horizon, it can cast shadows right across the sky. And these are known as crepuscular rays. It's the name of these light beams. And if they're coming off from the distance towards you, they appear to kind of spread outwards like this. It's just perspective. And sometimes they can go right across the sky and go off in the other direction away from the sun, cast right across the sky. And the perspective means they kind of spread outwards above you, and then they go back down to a point on the antisolar kind of point away from the sun. So, the light effects that people would have seen down on the ground might have had some of that sort of thing going on. The perspective means they're coming out in those rays. Like when you see, the first time I noticed a cloud was when I was in my mum's car, about the age of 5, and I was being driven into school in London. I remember seeing this puffy cloud in front of the sun, and they had these rays like that coming out. And I was like, wow, what's that made of? And what's the thing in the middle of that? And why does it stay up there? All those sort of questions. And it was the rays of sunlight that drag your attention to what's in the middle. And those look like they're coming from a light just behind the cloud and bursting out like that. But actually, of course, they're coming from the sun, and the rays are parallel. They're going like this, but you're just looking down the length of them, like looking down like the railroad tracks. They're coming towards you, and they appear to splay outwards just because of perspective. See what I mean? But that's always the rays are coming towards you. So yeah, I think that's there's a straightforward cloud shadows going on there. Yeah.
Thanks for that wonderful talk. I love your books. You're a really good writer. I have a question about your Cloud Collectors book.
Yeah.
I believe most of the data was from a place in Germany, and the points are, for those of you who don't know, they give you points for rare clouds like the Kelvin Cumulus clouds, which I've seen many, many times, but I've only seen a tuba, the formation of a tornado once.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because of not living near Tornado Alley, or do you think it's because I'm not out in a thunderstorm looking at the
Yeah,
clouds?
probably a couple of those, probably both of those. I mean, so a little bit like in that app, in the little book, the orange book that they've got outside, you can tick boxes. I always think it's funny, basically, the idea of something, this contrast between something so poetic and ethereal as just allowing a mind to drift with the breeze, and kind of linking that to ticking boxes and getting quite excited. Because I think the two don't fit. The two don't fit, and that's funny. And I find it interesting because the kind of the solidness of doing that reminds you of the freedom of doing the other. So which ones are rare and which ones are not rare is not determined very particularly scientifically. It's a lot to do with photographs that get sent into the society. The German group is to do with the occurrence of optical effects. How often you see, like we had a bit of today, a ring around the sun. There was it when we had the pastel group that Tom was teaching out on the shore today at a point up in the sky. There was a very faint rim around the sun, and that's called a 22-degree halo. And there was also this kind of slight reddening at the top, which was a very faint version of a upper tangent arc. There are all these names for these different, and they're all to do with the light shining through the ice crystals of high clouds. So that German group is about how often the different ones form. So then those optical effects. Okay, let's go to the group. Oh, stand there. Sorry. Hello.
Yes, hi. Thank you for the talk. I have looked at clouds ever since I was a child and then taken photographs, and I've always referred to myself as a cloud collector.
Great.
And so I just wanted to put in a plug here. I have formed a Facebook group called Cloud Collectors for photographers of clouds.
Brilliant.
And so anybody that wants to join that can submit your photographs. And anybody that has knowledge that would like to comment on them, all the better. Thank you.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Yeah.
Are aircraft contrails the same science as normal cloud formation?
Yeah, so this is something you hear a lot about on the internet is aircraft contrails, and something that people get worked up about. They are kind of surprising things because they appear so different from one day to another. And a lot of people have thought this is an indication that there are some things that are not contrails, and they call them chemtrails. And they say these are actually materially different from the normal condensation trail that forms behind an aircraft. A chemtrail is something different, and it's to do with spraying chemicals in some intentional way. Maybe some sort of government geoengineering project, or maybe it's something to sort of control people below. And so there's a lot of people get worked up in this, what I see as a conspiracy theory idea of chemtrails. And the reason I say it's a conspiracy theory, seems to me, all of the reasons they say these things are not the normal aircraft condensation trails. All the reasons they say these are different are easily explained by the behavior of condensation trails. So condensation trail forms when in the aircraft's exhaust, amongst all the other rubbish that the plane is spewing out, one of the gases is water vapor. It's one of the gases for the combustion process, and it's produced by the combustion process. And when that water vapor comes out the exhaust of the plane, if conditions are right, it can form into droplets. It comes out as hot gas, and it can cool quickly and form into droplets. If the conditions aren't right, it can just stay as a gas, and you sometimes see an airplane with no condensation trail. Sometimes you see them with a condensation trail that appears briefly and then evaporates away. So those droplets form and then they evaporate. on other days, and the weather, the atmospheric conditions up at the level of a plane flying can be very different from one day to the other. It's all related to whether a weather front's coming. And another day it can be cold enough and moist enough up there for the droplets not only to form and persist in the sky, but then to freeze. And for the freezing, to those ice crystals to grow and splinter, like I was talking about with the Fall Street hole. They grow, they splinter, and the moisture that's in the air anyway, and because we've got a front coming, starts to freeze onto them. They act as like a catalyst, and you get this condensation trail spreading out in the high winds over a broader and broader area, because the catalyst that we've introduced artificially, some water vapor up there, has set off the process that would have happened later when the weather front had arrived. You would have seen cirrus clouds beginning to develop into cirrus stratus. So that's one reason why people say they're different. These ones persist for a long time. Another one is they say this cloud was turned on and turned off. I watched the plane and it didn't happen on 12, and it did. And then it turned off again. So this is going to be an example of the government doing some spraying stuff on us. But actually it's not. That plane could be gently climbing or gently descending. And our atmosphere is very stratified, often very stratified, and you can have one layer of air with one condition of temperature and, more importantly, moisture content, and then above it you can have one with very different moisture content, and above that different again. So this plane could be flying up, and you don't really notice it climbing because you're sort of looking from below, and it's flying up gently through this layer, which is perfect for forming contrails. And so suddenly they appear, and then it carries on up, and suddenly they stop. And then go, that's got to be evidence, they flipped the switch. But it's not. So for me, it's like very simple to explain all the things that they say these are different. But like every conspiracy theory, there's a grain of truth. And the grain of truth is to do with cloud seeding. This process of artificially trying to encourage a cloud to rain. And it was first invented in General Electric in the 1950s as a way to relieve or alleviate drought conditions. It could do this to encourage a cloud to rain more. And then the military got interested in using it to, as a way to control the weather on the battlefield, crucial in terms of the actual battles. And so that process of trying to, and countries still do it today, to try and do it in the US, do it in Russia, do it in China, to try and kind of get clouds to rain more, or maybe to get them to rain out before they get to the Moscow, celebrations for the anniversary. So they were trying to do these sort of to stop it raining on their parade, or whatever it is, but it's still done. And that idea of messing with the weather is very real, and that's the grain of truth. But it's not to do with condensation trails. Long answer. I'm so sorry.
I want to make sure we have any questions from this side of the room. I know we have one on the far side. Before I went over there, just a couple on this side.
This is a weird question.
Sure.
So we've been watching clouds for a long time, Tom, especially as a painter in the same place for 24 years. And it seems like, this is strange, but it seems like the clouds are getting more dramatic. They're more, it's not necessarily like we're getting more storms, but we'll just say, wow, remember they're just towering and dramatic. Is it us or is it the clouds? And I wonder what you've seen in your years of sort of clouds in general.
Yeah, well, so our cloud's getting more dramatic. I mean, when you ask people about climate change, they one of the things they often agree on is that you can get more extremes. So you get extreme dry periods and extreme stormy periods, and maybe when you get storms, they might be more powerful storms. So I guess in a sense, that might suggest that's the case. At the same time, this could be as life progresses, you become more focused on the important stuff.
One more question over here, and then we'll do our final question at the other end of the room.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much for your talk. I just came back from Scotland, and I felt like the sky never got far off the ground, and it was settled. It just barely get up and come back down again, and I'm wondering if it was the moisture in the land is very moist with the bogs and everything. And does the amount of moisture in the land affect how high the clouds can get before they drop?
Right, yeah, okay, so this question of like the base of the cloud, like up in Scotland, the clouds are so low, they were scraping the ground. No, it's not to do with the moisture in the ground. The moisture in the ground is to do with all the rain, basically. And certainly evaporation, which is how water gets up into the atmosphere as a gas, can come off the sea. It can also come off, lakes and rivers. So, I mean, yeah, in a sense. But the reason why Scotland had lots of low clouds is because it's right next to this huge region of ocean, and the weather comes in from the west. So the weather is always coming in, and especially when you're up at the level of Scotland, you're kind of where the jet stream is, and the jet stream is always sending weather, basically. Where that goes, the jet stream kind of drives weather systems. So these weather systems are coming in off the ocean, and they're coming in with air that's picked up a lot of moisture, because you've got this relatively warm ocean current coming up around Britain. It's why our temperatures are quite mild. Our summers are mild and wet, and our winters are never particularly cold, because the ocean current, the North Atlantic drift, is a warm ocean current. And so the air comes in, it's warm, and it's filled with moisture, and it comes in and it reaches the land, and it gets pushed up, and as soon as it gets pushed up, and any kind of mountains or anything like that lifts up, it cools. Air lifts, it expands, and it cools. It's all to do with expansion. What do you mean of any gas? Well, that will cools it. So it lifts it, it cools, and immediately droplets form because the air is so moist. You see what I mean? And so you find that when people talk about the big skies of Montana or something like that, they're talking about kind of regions that are in the middle of a large continent. So you don't have this low cloud seeding, which happens when it's just coming off the sea. And a low cloud seeding, like being in a low ceiling of a worm, you kind of don't get much of a sense of vista. But if you're in a big cathedral, you get this sense of, wow, look at this, because it's so high. The ceiling is so high, and it's a little bit like that with the clouds. When it's a low cloud, you get up and you sort of see, you can only see maybe 20 miles, sort of that, in that direction, you know what I mean? But because you're looking at this glancing angle, and then it all gets a bit, the atmosphere gets a bit kind of hazy, you know what I mean? But if you have clearer atmosphere and a high cloud ceiling, you're looking up like that, and to look at the clouds, you're maybe looking at 150 miles or something, you see what I mean? Maybe more, if it's clear. So you suddenly get this, that's the big sky. I don't think it's to do with the land, the terrain so much. That helps, what's going on in the terrain, not having obstacles. But the big skies are to do with the height of the clouds, and that's to do with you're in a drier continental place, or you're right on the coast with maritime air coming in. Yeah, but one ahead.
I'm such a huge fan of the Cloud Appreciation Society and the manifesto. It's been inspiring. Thank you.
Good.
And I'm a proud member of your Cloud app group.
Good.
And I'm really interested in finding one of those horseshoe vortexes. What
Yeah.
can you suggest about where to find them and when?
It's really hard to say anything about where to find a cloud, because people often ask me, where's the best place to go cloud spotting? And I say the best place to go cloud spotting is in your backyard, because it's not about going somewhere. It's not about kind of, right, on Thursday afternoon, we're going cloud spotting, we're going to go to so-and-so, because, that is always going to end in disappointment, we know that. The clouds, the sky, is the most ungovernable, uncontrollable aspect of nature. It's why we love it, but it also is why you can't plan stuff. And there's no spot. It's not like the lenticularis clouds which form around mountains. If you say, where should I go for lenticularis clouds? I'll just say straight away, go to a mountainous region. Preferably one where you're downwind of the mountains from where the kind of winds tend to flow. But those clouds will form on thermals, and the thermal will rise up, and you need to have a thermal rising up off the ground, so they'll form on sunny days often, and you need to have a crosswind. I mean, where's that going to happen? It could happen anywhere. You know what I mean? So I'm afraid I have absolutely no advice. I'm really sorry. I wish I could tell you where and when. But keep on looking. Yeah.
Is anyone
Or just
close?
wait for the mic. Just wait for the mic. It's just coming down.
Is anyone close to making rain when and where they want it?
Ah, what do you mean back to the cloud seeding? Well, I mean, we've always wanted to control the weather. It's unbelievably painful for human beings not to be able to be in control of stuff. Alright? And that's why we've always looked to the skies as, it's out of our control, but we try to control them in different ways. We've looked to the skies for signs, and the signs might be from the gods about whether the battle is going to be successful or not. The signs might be about whether the government's doing stuff. We're always, depending on the age, you're always looking for signs, and it's like indications that someone's in control. And that desire to control the clouds is all come back into the public conversation with, climate change. And if we have to do something drastic to try and combat climate change, what would that be? Will we have to do something to do with the clouds to make them more reflective, to change temperatures? Well, it's certainly true that the clouds do have an effect on temperatures. The low clouds, those ones like the cumulus, or when they join together into a stratocumulus layer, they tend to reflect more of the sunlight away, so they cast a shadow and they have a cooling effect. The high clouds, like those cirrus, allow the sunlight through, but they reflect back the Earth's radiation, so they have a warming effect. So the low clouds are cooling, the high clouds are warming. If you start messing with them, I just think it's going to be bad news, personally. So I'm not an advocate of trying to do that. I know that, who knows where things are going to get to. But are we ever going to be able to make clouds turn on and off like that? Well, I hope not. I mean, they don't really, there's no kind of contained space that a cloud happens in. It's a continuum. That's why messing with the climate for geoengineering. I interviewed this guy who is a historian from Maine, Colby, who is a historian of he's written this book called Fixing the Sky, and Jim Fleming he's called, and he did a whole history of our attempts to mess with the weather and change it for various purposes, and it always ends badly. It just never happens the way you're expecting it to happen, because the system is so big and so undividable and so continuous that you can't change one bit. You don't know what the other bits are going to do further down the line. So I hope we don't ever get to turn the clouds on.
Don't mess with clouds. That's the important message here. Gavin reminded me, so a couple of his books are for sale just outside in the lobby on the table as you head on out.
And the reason I wanted to just remind about that is because there's one of those called A Cloud a Day is basically a collection of the emails that subscribing members get every day. Now, each one's just an image and a bit of text, and it arrives in the morning, and there are no links in it. It's supposed to be a moment before your day begins of reflection on what's going to happen before the chaos of the day starts. There's a moment to pause. Sometimes it's a photograph from a member around the world with a little bit of explanation about what's happening. Sometimes it's a detail from a painting where the artist did something symbolic in the sky. Sometimes it's a NASA image or it's a quotation. And we've got the best of these together in this book. It's not coming out until, I don't know, November, I think it is. So we got some early ones. The publishers allowed us to get some early ones in. I think it's the best book to come out of the Cloud Appreciation Society, personally, because it's all come from the members, and it's all illustrated and beautiful. So anyway, that's why I just wanted to make sure people know about that.
Tell people about your awesome website.
Say that again?
Tell people about your awesome website.
We've got an awesome website. Really? Oh, great. Oh, thank you. Well, on the website, I feel, you see, I feel it's like kind of, I feel the society is a little bit like the Wizard of Oz at the moment, positioning levers, and I feel like the website could be so much more that. So I'm so pleased that you say that. But for me, it's like, oh, I should be doing this, and I should be doing that. But it's actually very small, that Appreciation Society, in terms of the number of people doing it, like me and a couple of others, and lots of members, and so a lot of the stuff comes from the members. But the society, the website is certainly something I wanted to develop more, so I'm glad I'm starting from a good place, in your opinion. Thank you for that.
Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Any other questions, come on up and talk to Gavin.